The deafening crack split the morning air like a rifle shot, and I'll never forget that sound, especially because it was immediately followed by splintering wood, then the kind of crash that rattles you right down to your bones. There I was standing in my kitchen, coffee halfway to my lips, thinking it was just going to be another quiet morning in suburbia until everything went sideways in about 2 seconds flat. By the time I rushed outside, still in my slippers, half the neighborhood was already gawking at the scene on my lawn. Phones out, jaws dropped, because right there, lying across my grass and smack dab on top of my neighbor's brand new white Tesla, was the massive oak tree I'd spent months defending. Now, if you think the first thing out of my mouth was an apology, think again. I was still processing what had happened, but not Karen Winters. She came tearing across my yard in her yoga pants and $1,000 sneakers, screaming like I'd just personally toppled the tree onto her car for sport. "You did this on purpose," she shrieked, jabbing her manicured finger at me, already ramping up to a full-on HOA meltdown. "This is criminal negligence. You'll pay for every cent." And I just stood there blinking because honestly, what do you even say to that? I didn't know it yet, but that was the start of a nightmare that had put my patience, my wallet, and my belief in the American dream to the ultimate test. Just 6 weeks before I'd closed on my first real house, a beautiful colonial in Oakage Estates, with a yard big enough for summer barbecues, a dog, the whole Norman Rockwell picture. After years of renting shoebox apartments, I thought I'd finally made it. Yeah, they mentioned there was an HOA, but the agent made it sound like a group of neighbors who organized block parties, not a squad of wannabe dictators. Nothing to worry about, he'd said, and I was naive enough to believe him. Day 3 in my new house, I'm still tripping over moving boxes when the doorbell rings. There stands Karen herself, clipboard in hand, smile that could cut glass. "Welcome to Oakage," she chirps, handing me a binder so thick it should have come with a forklift. "Here's everything you need to know about our community, and I'll need your first dues check." I figured fine. Pay the dues, play nice, maybe I'd never see her again. That was the first of about 1,000 mistakes. Week 1. My mailbox gets its first HOA love letter violation for leaving my trash can at the curb too long. Okay, rookie mistake, my bad. I send a polite email back. Thought that would be the end of it, but Karen was just getting started. 3 days later, she's at my door scowling at my beloved oak tree. It's blocking my mountain view. HOA guidelines say you have to minimize obstructions. Now I'm all for following rules, but chopping down a 60-year-old healthy tree. Not a chance. I tried to be reasonable. The tree was here before I was. It's not going anywhere. Karen just narrowed her eyes and told me, "This isn't a request." I'd actually read the guidelines. Mature trees are protected unless diseased or dangerous, and my home inspection paperwork from a certified arborist said my oak was as healthy as they come. Karen didn't care. She just stormed off, making it clear that I'd picked a fight I didn't know the rules for. The weeks that followed turned into a game of passive-aggressive whack-a-mole. First, I got a noise complaint about my AC allegedly too loud during dinner hours. Then my mailbox was half an inch too short. Trash cans again, now visible through a gap in the fence. Every letter threatened fines. Neighbors would wave but wouldn't make eye contact. Turns out Karen's husband sat on the city council and nobody wanted to get on her bad side. When you cross Karen, you become persona non grata. One day I spot a landscaping crew in the common area by my yard. There's Karen pointing at my tree giving orders. That night I find one side of my tree butchered, huge branches hacked off, leaving the poor thing looking like it got into a fight with a lawnmower and lost. I called a real arborist who confirmed my fears they'd destabilized it. Furious, I took photos, filed a police report for trespassing, emailed the HOA board with everything. Karen's response: deny, deny, deny. Routine maintenance, she said, not a care in the world. 2 days later, my oak was just gone. Gone. All that was left was a fresh stump, some wood chips, and drag marks across my lawn. A neighbor told me he'd seen a tree service, figured I'd ordered it. That night, someone slipped a receipt in my mailbox tree removal signed by Karen as HOA representative. My jaw hit the floor. I went down a rabbit hole on tree law. Yes, that's a thing, and learned she could owe me triple damages. We're talking up to 50 grand for a tree that old. But before I could even lawyer up, Karma decided to handle it herself. Next morning, that stump already weakened by the hack job gave way. The rest of the trunk toppled and gravity did its thing boom right onto Karen's precious Tesla. She went ballistic, calling the cops, wailing that I'd sabotaged her. But the officers barely glanced at her before I showed them my police report and the receipts. Still, within 2 days, she hit me with a lawsuit, negligence, property damage, emotional distress, the works. 200 grand. Plus, the HOA fined me for creating a hazardous condition and demanded I restore the landscaping. Neighbors avoided me like the plague. I considered selling, but something in me snapped. I wasn't going to let her steamroll me just because she always had. I hired the meanest attorney in town, Raymond Chen, king of property disputes, legendary for taking down HOAs. He looked at my stack of evidence and actually grinned. "You've done everything right. Now let's bury them." But he wanted proof Karen had directed the tree cutting. That's when Martin, the guy 2 doors down, quietly handed me a flash drive. Karen's gone too far. My security camera caught everything. Sure enough, there was Karen right in the footage directing the workers, pointing at my tree, even telling them to make it look like an accident. The kicker. She told them to leave the stump leaning toward my house. Armed with this, my lawyer hit the HOA with a countersuit for property damage, trespassing, malicious intent, the whole 9 yards. We reported everything to the DA too. And get this, the judge assigned to our case had once been publicly embarrassed by Karen at a town meeting, so she recused herself, but made sure the replacement was a stickler for property law. When our day in court came, Karen showed up with a high-powered lawyer playing the victim. It all fell apart the second Martin's footage rolled. You could hear a pin drop when the judge turned to Karen and said, "Nothing in your bylaws gives you the right to destroy a healthy tree on private property. Deliberately creating a hazard. That's borderline criminal." Karen turned white as a sheet. The judge tossed her lawsuit, slammed her with $75,000 for the tree, $20,000 in punitive damages, and made her pay my $30,000 legal fees. He referred her to the DA for possible criminal charges. By the end of the day, her husband's phone was blowing up city council colleagues distancing themselves, and the HOA board called an emergency meeting. That night, Karen was booted as president, unanimous vote, not even a courtesy thank you for her 2 decades of service. As I left the courthouse, Karen's mask finally cracked for real. She hissed, "You've ruined everything. Do you know who I am?" All I could do was shrug and tell her, "Maybe next time you'll think twice before messing with someone else's tree." Neighbors who used to avoid me started smiling again. Suddenly, Oakage Estates felt a whole lot friendlier, like the neighborhood had been holding its breath for years and could finally let it out. But you know what's funny? Some folks still whisper about whose fault it really was, whether justice was served, or it was just a case of suburban drama run amok. So let me ask you, was I right to fight back? Or should I have just rolled over and let the HOA win? Where's the line between community and controlled justice and revenge? Tell me what you think, because in neighborhoods like mine, that debate's never really over.